Good morning, my name is Jeremy Verrett, and this morning I'm going to tell you a story about my testimony of hope. I grew up in a little town in South Louisiana with two older brothers and a younger sister. There wasn't ever an anti-God sentiment in our house, but there weren't any Christian influences either. We were taught to show respect to preachers and the U.S. flag. My dad was a Vietnam vet, a Marine Corps. My dad would make the sign of the cross over his chest when we passed the cemetery, and we'd stop the car and take down the flag in a storm. And we even had a big family Bible on our coffee table for show. But when I was growing up, alcohol and drugs seemed as normal as food and water. My dad poured me my first big glass of vodka and sloe gin during Christmas when I was 10 years old. It wasn't long before I was sneaking a little sip of whatever was in our house here and there. I also began smoking pot just a short time later. I don't remember thinking there was anything wrong with this stuff when I was growing up. I mean, what boy doesn't want to be like his dad? After my mom left, my dad, because of his alcoholism and abuse, my dad paid people to keep us while he worked offshore. Some of the people were nice. One of the ladies who kept us for a little while was a Christian lady, and she made sure we had clean clothes for school, good food to eat, and she brought us to church. I remember once there was a vacation Bible school or some kind of revival of some sort. I don't remember which. I just remember there being a lot of older kids there. I also remember that at the end of the first night, the preacher asked the kids who weren't saved to come up front and get saved. I'd never heard I needed to be saved, and I sure didn't want to go up front and leave out that side door with a complete stranger. But I noticed when the kids who went forward came back, they either had a giant pixie stick or a pack of Fun Dip. And I could hardly wait for the second night of church because I knew that if he asked the kids to come up again, I was going to be first in line. I did go forward that second night, and the person who took me out the side door asked me if I wanted to be saved. And I knew he wanted me to say yes, so I did. He filled out a little card with my name on it and told me I was going to heaven when I died. And then he gave me a Fun Dip. I did learn something about myself that night. I liked candy enough to walk off with a complete stranger. I do remember after that, I started going to a little Baptist church down the road with my cousins. I loved it. My Aunt Linda was my Sunday school teacher, and she taught us Bible stories and challenged us to memorize the books of the New Testament. And when we did it, we got our own Bible with our name on it. Looking back on it now, I guess the church could get me to do just about anything for a prize. Neither of these experiences truly brought me to an understanding or an acceptance of Jesus Christ and his work on the cross to save me and bring me hope. On the day before my 13th birthday, my dad dropped me and my brothers and my sister off at my mom's to begin living with her and my new stepdad. He was a professing atheist, and there was not going to be any more church for us. The next 2.5 years were the most difficult of my life. He was a cruel man, and he enjoyed abusing us in some of the cruelest ways imaginable. One night my sister told us that he had been molesting her for over 2 years, and my brothers and I came up with a plan to tell the principal of the school what was happening with her and with us. And the next day he was arrested and we were placed in group homes. My mom had a nervous breakdown when they took us away and was hospitalized for a while. I was in and out of a couple of group and foster homes for a short period of time. And I remember sneaking out at night and stealing alcohol and cigarettes from the Aggregate drugstore down the street. And a few of us kids would hang out and drink in the park. It wasn't very long before my dad was found in Florida and agreed to let us come and live with him. By this time, he had learned of all that we had been through, and I think he must have felt a little guilty because he pretty much let us do whatever we wanted. I was already becoming a pretty heavy drinker before I turned 16. In fact, I was going out of school at 15, so I really thought I had it made. I began to hang out with some thieves and drug dealers, and that sort of launched me into the next 15 years. 15 years of alcohol and drug abuse and multiple incarcerations. My first time I was in prison, I began to read about God, Jesus, and salvation again. And I always loved reading. And when you're in prison, you have a lot of time to do that. While I was there, I discovered some books put out by Chaplainry Ministries out of Texas. These books were all about some of the most infamous criminals of their day. I love reading about these guys and their criminal adventures. But about two-thirds through the books, the story began to change. It turned into a story about how they were saved and how their lives were changed and how they were serving the Lord both inside and outside the prison gates. I admit I wasn't very interested in this part of the book and would often stop reading at that point and move on to the next book. There was a small group of 3 or 4 guys who met for a Bible study every night in listening distance of my bunk. And I used to listen to them. They even invited me a few times, but I wasn't going to get caught showing what looked like weakness to my new friend in prison. As I continued reading these books, I began to go further and further until I was actually reading them all the way through. At the end of every one of these books, there was a plan of salvation. And I'll never forget that night, lying there on my bunk. I understood that I was a sinner. And I needed God's forgiveness and the salvation that can only come from God's will. I prayed that night with a real understanding of what God had done for me. And I truly accepted the Lord as my personal Savior. Amen. No fun gift required. I learned so much about God and the Bible during my time in prison, and I really wanted to live differently than I had before. But unfortunately, I had no support group when I got home and no church family, so I went right back to the life I had been living after I was released. I spent the next 12 years in and out of jails and prisons. My drinking and drug use became a lot harder, and I experienced homelessness from one side of the country to the other. One night, shortly after completing a 2.5-year sentence and getting out of prison for the 3rd time, I did something that was so terrible that I was finally broken. I snuck into my dad's house one night and went to the place where I knew my sister kept her money. She was on government assistance in raising her kids while living at my dad's home. I took every penny she had to take care of her kids for that month. And I went out and I bought drugs with the money. Before the sun was up the next morning, I was out of money and drugs. And I had to face my sister. And once again, explain someone who loved me lied, stole from them to feed my brother. My sister told me that morning that she never wanted to see my face again. And I knew the rest of my family was in agreement with her. I remember going down the road a little ways and sitting behind a building and crying out to God. I remember reminding him of the day I'd asked him to save me and told him I wanted to go to heaven. I wanted him to take my life that day. I wanted to die behind that building that day. I told God that I knew I would never be able to change what I was, and I didn't want to go on living that way. Looking back on that now, it's as if Jesus must have seen me there and said to the Father, look at him. He's finally ready. He's finally empty of his own selfishness and pride. And it's as if God realized it was time for him to put his plan for my life into action. I don't know how long I sat behind that building, but it seemed like forever, waiting for death to come, and it never would. A couple weeks later, I found myself on the bus to Raleigh, North Carolina, where unbeknownst to me, God would put his plan for my life in motion. 1 week after arriving in Raleigh, I moved to the Water Rescue Mission. I had been in rescue missions and shelters before, but this felt different. Everything I owned in the world when I got here fit inside of a small duffel bag. With no money, no material possessions, and no more pride, I felt unusually at peace. Shortly after moving into the mission, I was lying on my bed one day reading my Bible, and I came across a verse that spoke to my heart in a way that no verse ever had. It was Matthew 6:33. It says, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." I remember a feeling of hope and peace I hadn't known before. I remember making a commitment to God that day that I would cast off any and all aspiration that I ever had for myself. I made a commitment to stay there at that rescue mission for as long as God wanted me to, and I would seek only to know him better. Not long after that day, maybe just a day or two, God sent two men from this church to speak at the rescue mission, Ron Allen and Chris Reeves. I don't remember what Chris preached on that night, but I remember Ron inviting anyone who wanted to come to church to let him know, and he would make a way. That first night, it was a Wednesday night service in the old Cops Chapel, and Benny Hartley picked me up on the way to church. He shared his testimony with me, and I saw someone who was like those guys in those books that I had read all those years ago in prison. Here was someone who had turned things around and was in Bible college, preparing to serve the Lord. Once again, I felt hope for the future. Nearly 15 years have passed from that day to this one, and there have been some ups and downs, but I now have a support group. It starts with an amazing godly wife and a church family that has encouraged me and prays for me regularly. I said in the beginning I was going to tell you a story of hope. I hope that you do see that in my story, there is hope. God does not always seem present, but He is never further than a call away. I also hope that whether or not you can identify with any part of this story personally, you were able to see a loving God with arms wide open, giving hope to a lost and dying world, one lost soul at a time. Thank you for listening to my story of hope.